Think about this for a minute. Linnaeus has calculated that if an annual plant produced only 2 seeds, and there is no plant so unproductive as this, and their seedlings next year produce 2, and so on, then in 20 years there would be 1,000,000 plants. The elephant is reckoned to be the slowest breeder of all known animals, and I have taken some pains to estimate its probable minimum rate of natural increase. It will be under the mark to assume that it breeds when 30 years old and goes on breeding till 90 years old, bringing forth 3 pairs of young in this interval. If this be so, at the end of the 5th century, there would be alive 15 million elephants, descended from the first pair. Now that's a lot of elephants.
Perhaps the individual most influenced by Darwin's theory was Francis Galton, a cousin of Darwin. Darwin's ideas emphasized the importance of individual differences in furthering evolution. Galton, implementing Darwin's theory, proposed that intelligence was innate and inherited. A strong proponent that nature was the most important determinant of attributes, Galton initiated the theory of eugenics.
I used to be wretched under the weight of the old-fashioned arguments of creation from design, of which I felt I was unable to prove it myself, the worthlessness. Consequently, the appearance of origin of species formed a real crisis in my life. The book drove away the old constraint of my old superstition as if it had been a nightmare, and was the first to give me freedom of thought.
Galton, strongly fueled by the ideas brought forth in Origin of Species, assimilated the contents of Darwin's book and began to form other ideas, such as the infamous idea of eugenics, or the improvement of mankind by selectively breeding the best people.
I was encouraged by the new views to pursue many inquiries which had long interested me, and which clustered round the central topics of heredity and the possible improvement of the human race. Most authors agreed that all bodily and some mental qualities were inherited by brutes, but they refused to believe the same of man.
Due to many criticisms, such as ethical concerns, eugenics was not embraced by the scientific community. In testing this idea, however, Galton established the first anthropometric laboratory, collecting physiological data from 9,337 people and developing the statistical method of correlation for analysis. Darwin strongly believed that all details, no matter how small, have a survival function that has developed over time. Thus, to understand an individual as they are in the present, you must learn about past experiences, which is a key component of Freud's psychoanalysis.
The theories of Darwin, which were then of topical interest, strongly attracted me, for they held out hopes of an extraordinary advance in our understanding of the world. When attempting to understand a human psyche and their unconscious, you must refer to earlier experiences that have resulted in the present dysfunction. The study of dreams, therefore, becomes the most convenient means of access to a knowledge of the repressed unconscious. By interpreting the dreams, you can evaluate earlier experiences that have shaped the present psyche.
Darwin's influence was felt in other realms of psychology. For instance, his study of animals and the parallels they share with humans paved the way for comparative psychology, and his early observation of his eldest child was a forebearer to developmental psychology. As an early comparative psychologist, George John Romanes was greatly influenced by Darwin's idea of the continuity between humans and animals. He devoted much of his research to searching for shared abilities between humans and other species. Although the work of Romanes inspired a great deal of research in the field of animal psychology, he was critiqued harshly for his lack of empirical methodology and his habit of anthropomorphism.
I have developed the idea that all organisms can be located along a ladder of mental operations of intelligence, influenced, of course, by the great Charles Darwin. I believe that on this mental ladder, intelligence increases within a species over time and becomes progressively greater as we move up the ladder. Additionally, due to the continuity between humans and animals, if you were to examine human behavior and correlate that behavior with what we knew about cognitive abilities, we can use that human behavior as an analogy and look at similar behaviors in animals, which I have coined introspection by analogy.
Of course, comparative psychology was just one small part of Darwin's influence. He was a voice that reverberated throughout psychology as a burgeoning field. His theory of evolution revolutionized the way in which scientists viewed the progression and development of characteristics in both humans and animals alike. His acute observations from the Galapagos Islands resulted in the initial formulation of his theory, and his detailed account of observations and the data provided in the evidence that science desired. Darwin's courage in publishing his controversial theory inspired the minds of many other prominent names in psychology, such as Francis Galton, Sigmund Freud, and George John Romanes. Perhaps the influence of Darwin's ideas is best summed up by D.C. Dennett, author of Darwin's Dangerous Idea, Evolution, and the Meanings of Life. If I were to give an award for the single best idea anyone has ever had, I'd give it to Darwin, ahead of Newton and Einstein and everyone else. In a single stroke, the idea of evolution by natural selection unifies the realm of life, meaning, and purpose with the realm of space and time, cause and effect, mechanism, and physical law.